How about now? Is this working? Is the sound working now? I need to go undercover for this. I was going to label this what happens when PDI floats around $1 with backing of, I don't know, whatever they plan to back it with. So what happens to Eros? That's what I was gonna I was gonna talking about Eros. What happens to Eros when PDI 200x's from here in a short period of time, if that happens? But then I decided, no, I decided let's make this about Liberty Swap Finance. And finally, the Pulsechain Intern has arrived on crypto Twitter, and I'm very happy. And it led to this. This is my drawing about, um, this is Liberty Swap Finance over here. This is Liberty Swap Finance. And this is PDI. and and I figured it all out. And once I figured it out, like what's going on behind the scenes, or at least my hypothesis of what's going on, and I will share that. But once I decided I sort of had enough information, I decided to transform a piece of wood, this piece, because if you look at the Liberty Swap Finance brand, it's this like a, and the, what's her name? Like Lady Liberty, right? So Liberty Swap Finance has Liberty with like this very colorful fire torch, Liberty torch, right? And so that's this piece. There is a snake down here, right? And so there's always in these jungle pieces the snakes. Now earlier this day I shared this piece as what's called, this piece is part of a series called Home is Where the Heart Is, right? Home is Where the Heart Is. And it's a bunch of pieces. It's yeah, it's just this idea that, yeah, it's actually what I taught my son when he had to shuttle between homes, and he was fucking traumatized by the whole thing. And he really needed to be with me. So I was like, all right, home is where the heart is until I can get you in my house, which was pretty quick. Anyway, so this is carved, but the beauty of being a creator, an artist, is I can create whatever I want. And once I saw that this top of this carving is just like the Liberty Swap Finance, and so now I'm going to sand it and paint it those colors. I'll probably do dot painting. It'll be a primordial Liberty Swap Finance totem, right? To celebrate the Pulsechain Intern finally arriving, right? A mature marketing presence that is consistent and positive and professional. And part of the thing that inspired me to do this today is I saw on Twitter, I'm in New York. Anybody who wants to come find me and get me, come and get me. Okay. I have totemic protection. I have no fear. Okay. I have Liberty Swap Finance right here. It has a snake in it. It's got hearts in it. It's all about love, but don't don't mess. Don't tread on me, baby. Don't tread on me. Give me the Liberty Swap Finance. And give me the ZK P2P privacy function to onboard and offboard privately, right? And give me the permissionless asset PDI. It's floating, right? It's currently a very volatile asset, but something's happening with it. And I believe that there's going to be an effort to pump it and back it, right? And then it'll be a floating asset. that's intended to be a currency, permissionless, decentralized currency, uncensorable, no blacklist, right? And what I see is that Liberty Swap Finance and the Pulsechain Intern all have something to do with this. So here's how I see it. Liberty Swap Finance is like both the front end, the marketing, it's like a professional marketing operation. I just saw one of their ads that they said was for their AI customers. So it's so the so the media intern, there's one full-time media intern we hear working 18 to 24 hours a day. And then there's a team of 14 devs, right? I don't think it's a coincidence that Richard Hart also talks about having 14 devs. I don't think it's a coincidence. Maybe it is. And I don't know if this, I don't think it's his team, but I don't know. That's sort of the mystery that I'm willing to live with. And the more that I know about like the Genius Act and the definition of stable coins, which will be regulated, it's really important to stay away from being the issuer of a stable coin. And that's not what PDI is, right? And so that's why PDI is a different sort of animal. The other floating stabilizing asset I like is USDX, which comes from Ouroboros, but I'll leave that out. It's totally different, but it's also a stabilizing asset that is crypto collateral backed. And I think that PDI will be crypto collateral backed. I don't know when this is happening or how it's happening, but I do know that, or I suspect that Liberty Swap Finance is playing a critical role. Okay. Their role is not just the marketing front end, but they're building the critical infrastructure, the multi-chain liquidity web that enables onboarding of stable coins, right? Starting with the big ones, USDC and USDT, onboarding from all these different chains, using stable coins to onboard into Pulsechain assets, right? The core assets and important, who's ever doing the listing on Liberty Swap Finance has the cores, has PDI, has wrapped BTC, P wrapped BTC, right? Has Bear. These are all like they're the core coins and also the other coins that to me seem like the integration of the core Pulsechain coins, Richard Hart's coins, and the Atropa web, Bear, PDI, yeah, wrapped BTC, P wrapped BTC. It's all connected. So Liberty Swap Finance, I think it's good that no one is in charge of PDI. I think it's good that there are multiple decentralized, anonymous actors who are building the infrastructure. And Liberty Swap Finance hasn't like been doxxed or anything. I don't need doxxed developers. I need to know that the product is working and being tested and prototyped, if, you know. And when Richard Hart tips his hat to Liberty Swap Finance and asks what his people think about it, that's a sure sign that he's looked under the hood, in my opinion, which is why is my initial confidence in Liberty Swap Finance is that um, there's probably at very least some integration of Richard Hart's team and the Atropa Dev teams in a coordinated effort with other whale actors to actually um, build a permissionless decentralized finance hub. And so, okay, so what I think I figured out is that Liberty Swap Finance is the liquidity hub with an RBot army, multi-chain. It's going to onboard stables onto Pulsechain, right, to swap into Pulsechain in this elegant bridging system, right? So there's going to be onboarding from other chains, from stable coins to start onto Pulsechain. That's amazing. And I think how they're doing it is they're building liquidity on all these chains, starting probably with Ethereum and then extending where we see it's not really bridging. I think it's setting up liquidity webs and swapping, right? And building the liquidity to enable this multi-chain swapping and ARB system that at the end of the day serves the Pulse chain assets and ecosystem and, you know, is feeding capital into Pulse chain and providing bridges back. And so making, for example, PDI acceptable or accessible cross chain, right? And making PDI available, not just, even though it's going to be a native stabilizing asset, I believe, I think what they're building, what Liberty Swap Finance is building, a liquidity hub and a swapping function. And so onboarding, but they're also building onboarding for retail. For like that ad that I saw them do that was like geared towards the AI users was for retail, young investors that want to quickly onboard, no KYC, using existing wallet technology, maybe Richard Hart and this vertically integrated, you know, tech stack actually includes a wallet. But right now, we can use existing wallets and use the ZK P2P privacy feature and tool to onboard, like from in the US, places like Zelle, right, and Venmo, like quickly and elegantly without KYC, you can go Venmo or Zelle into USDC into PDI. 5 minutes, no KYC. That's what Liberty Swap is doing now. So they've got onboarding for retail for new users, like people that I know. I'll send them there if they, once it's been tested by degens like us who are testing it and making sure it's safe. By the time retail is there, it'll be a perfect time to onboard masses of people with that Liberty Swap Finance totem. This totem is going to ease the onboarding, right? From other blockchains and from retail. That's what this totem is designed for, to burn the flame of liberty and to see if we can achieve the promise of a permissionless, decentralized finance hub, right? And so I think that Liberty Swap Finance is going to be that liquidity hub and swap, while it also serves to market, be the front face, and to onboard people, which I'm cool. And that's why I see it as a hub. It's like that. Okay. and it's multi-chain, and it's feeding Pulsechain and getting fed by Pulsechain. And PDI is the central gem of the collective pursuit of having a stabilizing asset that floats around $1 of whatever it backs, whatever they set up to back it. And so I think the idea is to do it in a decentralized, permissionless, stealthy way and launch once it's no longer in stealth mode, right? And I think that's Richard Hart's style of launch. I think the Atropa style of launch was a whole different animal. And now I'm starting to understand what it was when it happened. And I think that the Atropa web and all of that is connected here. And I don't fully understand how that's going to operate yet, but I know it's all connected. So, okay, so Liberty Swap Finance, Pulsechain, Intern, Totem. Anything else? Marketing, Bridge, Stablecoin, on-chain, Pulsechain, and Post Supply. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't need to go there. So I think that the 14 devs behind this Liberty Swap Finance are building this infrastructure that's going to be multi-chain. It's going to serve the interests of Pulsechain and the Pulsechain core assets. And also, I believe, and maybe I'm wrong, I have no idea, but I do believe that there's going to be an effort to not to peg, but to float PDI up from where it is at about half a penny or something, maybe a 200x or so, to be close to $1. But then the question that I will have is, well, what is that backed by, and how is it permissionless, and how does the backing work? And I think that's the mystery that I'm hoping gets solved over the next 3, 6, 9, 12 months, however long it takes. Some people who are studying this think it's going to be quick. Some people think that there is going to be a fast, pumping. I have no idea. I don't know. I don't know enough about this to know if it's going to be fast or long and drawn out. I don't know. I do have a guess about when it's going to culminate in close to $1 of backing value, and that's in August. I just have a feeling that it's later in August, but I really have no idea. Maybe that's wishful thinking, because I would prefer that it happened faster, because I think what happens is if it happens fast, if it doesn't happen fast, it'll be a more balanced injection of capital. It'll be gradual. And so I think that's sort of in terms of like, I don't know, market stability, probably a slower process would be better. But this is not what Liberty Swap Finance and the other players involved are pointing towards. They're pointing towards big movement of capital in the next weeks, right? And so what that tells me is something is brewing. I don't know exactly what it is, but if I had to guess, it is going to be opening up Liberty Swap Finance D app to the next level of growth for Pulsechain. I don't know what that is, but I think it's around the deep liquidity that's going to start forming to back PDI, P-Rep BTC, maybe P-Rept E. And yeah, So that's sort of, and I'd be interested to see where is the capital flowing in. Like if we start to see digital, like what is it, Galaxy Digital? If we start to see, even though it's probably once it gets to uh, this will probably be private actually. So I'm not sure that we will see who it is and where it comes from. It could be part of the reason why so much of this Bitcoin is moving towards the institutional rails and then probably through the privacy feature so that in fact it's very hard to know where the capital is that's backing this permissionless anonymous like nobody is the issuer for PDI. That's why I think it's fascinating how if it's actually going to be an intentional effort in a decentralized developer sort of way, meaning that the code, the infrastructure, and then the capital will follow the code and the infrastructure, like done in a decentralized way with some sort of decentralized coordination is just fascinating, which is why it's highly speculative. It's why, I mean, personally, I don't put a huge amount of speculative capital into PDI. Personally, I haven't. I know other people have, but I bought a little bit. I don't know. I mean, I had a ton way back when, right? I wish I had kept it, but I sold it at a good time and I moved on. But I always kept a little moon bag. But I've been buying. I started about 2 months ago when I started to see that there was legal certainty for Pulsechain. I was like, oh, okay, there's legal certainty. And I started seeing rumblings from little birdies telling me, hey, PDI, hey, PDI, hey, rep BTC, right? And so, anyway, all right, I think I'm almost good. I don't know how much more I can do this. I don't even know if anybody's here. Okay, so Liberty Swap Finance, the Totem. What will it do for assets that we're holding? Well, the core assets, anything in the liquidity web, let's say PDI goes up 200x in the next 6 weeks. Okay. I have no idea, but let's say hypothetically, the last coin that I held that went up 200x in 6 weeks was SHEEB, and I was stunned. And I didn't put a lot of money into it, but I got a lot of money out, or relatively a lot. I put a little in, I got a ton out, right, of SHEEB. Like that's my same sort of bet on PDI. You know, I put $1,000 in and in PDI and hope for $200,000 out. And not even out, because if PDI, look, if PDI to $1 doesn't happen, it's fine, because I'm buying $1,000 worth of a speculative asset that's the number one speculation. This is a stone. This is the PDI stone. Okay, this is PDI. This is also PDI. There's 10 of them. There's 10 PDI stones to go along with the PDI Pulsechain Intern Totem. Okay, this Liberty Swap Finance comes with 10 stones like this. Okay, and for those people that don't know about my totemic art, there's like the first thing is just I love doing it, so it comes with a lot of like strong love. Like it's like a don't fuck with me love. It's like brutal. It's like, you know, because in my art I'm free and I can say and do what I please as long as I don't hurt anybody else, right? And so yeah, so first there's love, but then the totemic piece of it, it's just because I like doing it. I don't do it to sell. Right? I give them, I do it to, I mean, I make lots of money from it, but I don't sell the art, right? It's part of the flow. It's part of the art flow. And money then comes and goes and it flows way better when I'm making art, right? And so that's how I use the art to help the money flow. Um, but the totemic piece of the art, there's two pieces, two parts of it. One is protection, like traditional totems protected families and clans and communities and regions and animal life and protected the sacred animals and the sacred nature of things. And the totems were the human made uh, uh, physical manifestations of the divine. Okay, they were the and so I have adapted traditional totemic art, which was all about protecting the people and the animals and the nature of things. So protection and then connection with those same forces of nature, the animals, the ancestors, the divine spirit of things. And so it's about protection and connection, right? And so people used to ask me when I would carve, oh, by the way, that piece behind me is that's called crocodile. Crocodile. That got carved in Central Park. It's that's an amazing piece. I've got it outside because I want to weather it a little bit, and then I'm going to refinish it. Um, yeah. Um, so yeah. So protection and connection. So for PDI and for Pulsechain and for Liberty Swap Finance, this is to protect the integrity of the whole system, right? So that people don't get hurt in the system, right? Because most people in most financial systems, including crypto, people get wrecked. People get hurt. Like that's why there's all this like anger and frustration and people anger and blah 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 and getting greedy and like well and person be person, right? Why? Because it's very volatile and very risky and people get wrecked. So part of this is about protecting people, helping people not get wrecked, which is why I like this mantra that Liberty Swap Finance have around making it simple to get on chain and private. That's huge. It helps that there's regulatory and legal certainty, right, for Pulse Chain now. That's why I know as like I'm not your crypto lawyer, but I am a crypto lawyer, right? I'm a lawyer and I know about crypto. And it's very easy for me to do research among my legal community and business community and learn the context of the law really fast, which is why I knew that the Pulse Chain sacrifice had an affirmative legal defense against the allegation. I knew it. I saw it way back when. I was like, damn, these lawyers are good. When I at first I was like, why is Richard Hart and the lawyers doing a sacrifice like this? I don't get it. Because I didn't believe all this like it's all altruistic. I'm like that my red flags are like up. Yeah, there's some maybe there is an altruism, but there's also always this egoic drive. Like let's assume that Richard Hart is a billionaire beyond the sacrifice money. Like he says he wants glory, fine. That's an egoic desire. I don't really trust that. I think more likely he wants to, belong, right? And just be free. Literally be free to be who he is. And that I respect. That's sort of, you know. So yeah, and so that this totem will help in the process. It doesn't hurt also. I have Eros. Eros is everywhere. Eros is anytime there's a heart, Eros is there, right? And so that's why eventually Eros, and I saw that Liberty Swap Finance is a real fan of PTGC, which I am too. And Liberty Swap Finance said that they couldn't list any tax tokens, any of the fee tokens. And I think I know why, but they did say that they were going to craft a contract for these fee tokens for the, which is great, because then that'll mean that PTGC will be on Liberty Swap Finance, will get listed there. And then at some point in the Eros evolution, as we develop our reputation, right? Once our Eros LP web becomes a little gem in the larger ecosystem, and our pairs with Bear and PDI and others will flourish, that's when people will realize that the integration of Liberty Swap Finance, you see that? See that? Right now, I didn't carve this, but now I can use it, right? I can use it. And the fact that it's mobile, that's amazing. So Liberty Swap Finance, Pulsechain Intern, this is a totem in celebration of your arrival. The intern, I think you deserve to get paid. We want you to get paid. Like, we want the interns to get paid, especially if you're working 18 to 24 hours a day, right? I'm sure you will. I mean, this is going to be hugely successful operation. And the fact that the fees, that there's a coffee jar to pay for fees, and that this is really designed to onboard money and users onto Pulsechain, and from it's amazing. It's the ARB moderated decentralized liquidity web, right? It's a hub that connects Pulsechain with like the critical EVM chains. It's amazing. So props to you all. It's been a long, strange trip, getting to the phase. I mean, I followed the Richard Hart sacrifice, and I spent 2 years, having nightmares about when launch, and I didn't realize it was going to take as long as it did. And then when Pulsechain finally launched, I did have a feeling soon after it. I actually had a feeling when Richard Hart was doing his rage marketing thing. I was like, oh boy, this is not good. I was like, but I realized that, so here's the thing. I'm going to give you this isn't the Liberty Swap Finance take. This is my take on like how basically Richard Hart and Pulsechain baited the regulators in 2 different ways. And it got baked into the SEC complaint and the overreach. Maybe people don't care. Maybe I shouldn't talk like this, but it's my sort of legal hypothesis based on what I've seen. And I sort of find it interesting. I don't know if it matters, but I'm going to share it. The first is that the how the sacrifice was designed, it had people like me. I sacrificed my hex, and I had to check mark that I agreed that this was like for freedom of speech. First it was freedom of speech, and then freedom of assembly for PulseX, I think. But the Pulse sacrifice, I think, was for freedom of speech, right? And that code is speech. And that this was really a sacrifice for that purpose, and there was no expectation of profit from the work of another. And that was the statement that we had to check off, and then send the hex or send whatever the sacrifice funds. And that became the sacrifice wallets. And it provides one of the forms of backing. There is no expectation of profit from the work of another. I let it go. I signed it off. I truly, now I did believe I was going to get an airdrop that had zero value, right? And so there was no expectation. And that's why when Pulsechain launched and it started pumping, my intuition was, especially after seeing Richard Hart over the last 2 years, my intuition said, and especially after I saw them go after Do Kwon and CZ, I was like, they're going to go after Richard Hart and Pulsechain. And I cautioned my friends and family, and I did a deck because we had a bunch of people go into the Pulsechain sacrifice, right? And I did a deck on the risks, the regulatory and the founder risks and the technological risks of Pulsechain. And the most important one, there was founder risk, because I just felt like even though Richard Hart is genius, he's also risky. Like he's a pariah in the industry. He's a rebel in the industry. Nobody wants to, he's been blacklisted because he's willing to speak truth to power. A lot of people don't trust him. They think he's a scammer. I think he's, an entrepreneur and a brilliant crypto mind. And I think he has a huge ego, but so what? He's a young guy and he's growing up, right? He'll burn off that ego as he gets reduced. Like these last few years when he had to go undercover and he had to disappear because he got attacked. Well, he did good, man. He was free to, to fight through his lawyers and do his life, right? And I suspect what had been going on behind the scenes is that the decentralized development team was continuing to, this was MVP. Pulsechain got launched as an MVP, and Liberty Swap Finance, which brings Pulsechain multi-chain and is building a deep liquidity web throughout and using, our magic and LP liquidity bonding cross chain. That's amazing. And so the first baiting, going back to the legal thing, is how they designed, and it was his lawyers, right? They do have common crypto lawyers with some other prominent investors, and it could be that there is some connection. I don't even want to make the connection. I prefer it not to be there. I prefer there to be mostly decentralized players. But the first baiting and the first win was, people will say, oh, it's a sacrifice. No. It worked legally. It provided an affirmative defense. And when I read it as a lawyer, I was like, oh, I get it now. He's forcing me to sign this and to say, this is not a security. I have no expectation. It's for this higher purpose. That's huge. And it became the affirmative defense. Freedom of speech. Code is speech. Like, read the complaint. They didn't settle. They won in court. They had really high-paid, strong lawyers that won in court. They beat the SEC. And they beat them on the grounds of this is not a security. And by the way, there was no fraud. Because the second thing that I think Richard Hart, I didn't like the rage marketing thing. I was like, oh, because my friends who did sacrifice, they were like, bro, what the fuck, man? What the fuck is this guy doing? They were saying he's a clown. I'm like, yeah, he's a clown. But I said there's got to be a reason. They're like, ugh, just to make us all freaking lose faith or something, and to make us believe that we invested in a clown. And I didn't like it. It was painful to watch, and it was the beginning of shaking out the believers from the non-believers. Now, upon reflection, and this is the connection to Liberty Swap Finance and the legal certainty that we got as of July 7th. It's no coincidence that all of this stuff is coming public right now. It's not a coincidence. Once you have legal certainty, then technology and capital can flow in. Until then, it's like a pariah, you know, destination, blockchain. Now it's one of the most legally certain blockchains on the planet, right? So that's why it's cool right now at this point in time. So the rage marketing, I believe now, upon reflection, was, I mean, part of it was to make a movie and to, but the other part of it is that Richard Hart and other influencers were getting all kinds of legal notices, cease and desist legal notices. Hexicans were getting targeted. They were getting, you know, legal, you know, defense funds had to be assembled. So there was a whole attack during this time, both before the Pulsechain launch, but especially after, attacking Richard Hart personally, legally, and influencers who were mostly educating. These were, you know, I don't know if people get paid, and that was some of the allegation, but this was the regulators in the US trying to make the case that this was a security offering, that Pulsechain was a security offering, and that there was fraud going on. That was the allegation. And once I actually read the documents, and I went back and I read the complaint from the SEC, and it's a special kind, it's a regulatory process, right? And it's administrative law, and you got to dig in. But there were two things. One was the securities allegation, and the second was the fraud allegation. And the interesting thing is, they alleged, and this is when I was like, oh man, Richard Hart set them up, and the lawyers set them up again with like, it's like it was like, what do you call it? Like a honeypot. It's like to get them to like take the bait. And what it was it was Richard Hart going through Europe, driving his Maserati or whatever through Europe, and like buying high-end Gucci stuff, high-end goods, and parading around. The SEC in the complaint used all of this. This was part of their allegation. So Richard and his lawyers, I believe, baited them a second time, because the second cause of action was fraud, was the fraudulent use of like this, you know, sacrifice funds instead of going to, you know, for like nonprofit use, or going to sit there as backing liquidity, or going to do personal enrichment, you know, of the individual, right? So anyway, it was gone towards like spending on luxury goods. That's BS. Anyone that knows Richard Hart. So anyway, he wasn't using sacrifice funds to buy Gucci stuff. He was using his own personal funds. Okay. And so that second thing was the second bait. And so if you looked at the arguments when they actually beat the SEC, that's what they showed documentary evidence, right? And the thing is that the SEC was stupid. They were vindictive. They were overreaching. And Richard Hart had affirmative defenses that he and his lawyers set up, and they baited them and they won. So that's why Liberty Swap Finance is now free to do onboarding. Like Zelle into Liberty Swap Finance through ZK P2P. You can do it now. People are testing it. I actually haven't used the ZK P2P, but I'm going to try it. with my Venmo. I'm just going to try it. I'm going to say, wow, and so, it could be once I check it out, it could be something that I tell people, here's how to do it, no KYC. That's crazy that would be able to be done. And yet they have enabled that technology. Now, big capital is going to have to test it out. I think they're starting with smaller capital. There's like $5,000 caps now, and they say they're viewing it before they probably build the deep liquidity ability to move big capital. So we'll see. So my piece of it is, okay, so what happens to Eros? Eros, if PDI goes to $1, Eros does, let's see. So PDI does so Eros is just leverage on that, right? Especially it's got a pair, but it's also leverage on other stuff. So not everything. So other stuff. So Bear, Pulse. I mean, if PDI does 200x, I would say Pulse will do 100x. I have no idea. So what is it going to do? It's going to be a huge, I mean, if it happens slowly, it'll be a slow infusion. If it happens fast, it's going to shake up all of the bonded liquidity ratios. And so if it does happen, this is what I've been thinking about. If it happens fast, all of the ratios are going to be wacky for a while. That's why my original inclination was to believe, without knowing anything, that it would be a slower process of like pumping PDI and backing it slowly so that you could work towards this dollar backing of whatever, just so it doesn't throw all of the ratios in the bonded liquidity web out. But if they're going to do it fast, it's going to be an explosive injection of capital. And there's going to be some fireworks. And if it's going to be fast, okay, here's my guess. If it's going to be fast, let me look at my calendar. Now, I don't even know if anybody's, we know they don't know. Hold on. Let's see. Okay, so here's my guess. Okay, perfect. It's July 24th today. My guess is, hold on. 8, 9, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Woo, baby. Okay. All right. It's on, and this is a guess. It has nothing to do with reality. This is like a game. If we're going to be fast, we're going to be heading towards $1 around August 23rd or 4th, around then. And I have no idea why. It's sort of like the carving. I didn't realize that this was Liberty Swap Finance Totem until I saw their brand, and I saw this carving, and I saw it connected to down. I saw it, and so now I need to finish it. Like, I'm going to finish it, and I'm going to paint that piece like that. There's a special color that's in all of the Pulsechain, Liberty Swap Finance, and PDI coloring. It's that deep, dark red color, whatever that, it's that orange, red, pink color. I don't know what it's called. Somebody tell me what that color is. But that's what I'm going to sand it, and maybe I'm going to dot paint it, maybe with a marker. Maybe a paint marker. That's what I'm going to do later. I'm going to go find the right thing to paint that with. All right. Liberty Swap Finance. Glad you're here, part of the team. Pulsechain Intern for Liberty Swap Finance. Great marketing, great communication. Keep up the good work. You've got a Totem backing you. Whatever financial arrangements you all have, get to work at it. I've got your back with the totemic art to make sure it's protected and connected and fun. Okay? It's got to be fun. And if we can build like constructive wealth for as many people as possible, that's good too. All right. Yeah, so a 200x to PDI, that seems easy for me. And I think that this $1 thing that Liberty Swap Finance is doing, like, it's hard to imagine Pulsechain at $1, but on the other hand, it is a deflationary asset and it's going to be a very wealthy blockchain. And so it's really only a matter of time. And so if we take away this idea of like time and it's a $1, I think the first $1 in the Pulsechain ecosystem will be PDI. It'll come close. And if it's going to be fast, it'll be between August 23rd and 24th. And if it doesn't, it's fine. It's no big thing. Yeah, it's no big deal. It's art. This is not like freaking science. This is not what I do. I do education and art, right? And I'm a relatively good crypto investor. I don't trade, but I like to accumulate at the bottoms and sell on the way ups, but also hold to get passive income. And that's actually my hope with PDI. So my goal with PDI. So I sold most of my PDI when it was way, before it hit its bottom. I did very well. I probably did a 13x on PDI, and then I sold most of it. All right, and then watched it from afar while I migrated value over to Ethereum and TitanX and Ouroboros, right? And so I went from PDI into Ouroboros through TitanX, right? So PDI profits come into TitanX, come into stablecoins, go into Ethereum, go into TitanX, go into Ouroboros. So PDI got me Ouroboros, right? So did Atropa. So did Bear. That's why I like PDI, Atropa, and Bear, because they've already done really well for me. They're going to do really well this cycle too. Right? And now I'm bringing my, TitanX. I'm not bringing Ouroboros value, but TitanX asset value over and pairing with PDI and Bear, Atropa, UFO. I'm losing my train of thought. It means I need to stop. I'm anyone that is listening that likes Smooth and crypto and Flare. I'm talking to Smooth tonight. We're going to do a stream. We're going to focus on Flare, and I'm going to pick his brain. He's a really smart crypto analyst. I'm going to get his read on where we are in the market and what he's thinking. It's Smooth and Crypto and Flare. We're going to do it tonight, like 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hopefully, I'll be able to do it outside here. I probably won't. Probably will have to go inside. I think it's harder. Maybe not. Maybe I can. Oh, maybe I can invite guests into the studio. Okay, so I got to go. Thank you for sharing this time with me. And thank you, Liberty Swap Finance. I mean, we're going to blow it up over the next, something big is coming in the next week. I don't know what it is. And then I believe we're heading towards $1 PDI. And my plan is, I believe that if that happens, if it doesn't happen, it's no big deal. I still have $1,000 that's now already worth probably $2,000, right? I was buying it, went from the bottom because I like to buy. I didn't know it was at the bottom, but when I started hearing about PDI again was just after the bottom. It had bounced back. I was like, oh, PDI came back. What's the story now? And then I started paying attention. And Eros got me paying attention to Pulsechain and PDI, and so it's all connected. So Yeah, if it's going to happen fast, it'll happen in August. And if it doesn't happen fast, then I think it'll happen over the next period of time. Either way, it's great. What my plan with my P dye is, I bought some P dye for myself. I bought some P dye for my son, for my parents, for some friends. I just bought some P dye, little bits of it, just to be part of that narrative and the speculative possibility. And then if we get to this floating around $1 of backing, so it's not $1 of fiat. This is the key thing. The Genius Act is about fiat backing. This isn't the Genius Act. This isn't stable coins. It's not. This is on-chain, permissionless, stabilizing assets, but they're actually floating assets around $1 worth of the collateral backing that's crypto. It's crypto backed. It's not fiat. The idea is we don't want fiat touching our on-chain economy. Right. And I believe, as like a legal analyst, that's the best way to protect self from not just regulators, but attacks from, and not just in the US, from in other places, is to avoid fiat as much as possible in terms of like the backing. Like we'll be able to use the blockchain to audit eventually when PDI gets set up as a permissionless system, which I think it will be set up as a permissionless system that's very hard to take down. That's the idea. It's censorship resistance. It's going to, when successful, be very difficult to take down. When there are huge cells, it will bounce back. It's this floating elastic asset that is going to be a unique creature in decentralized finance. That's what I believe, based on what I'm learning now. Now, if it doesn't happen, so be it. Lots of stuff that I believe could happen doesn't happen. This could happen just because I believe it could happen. I have opened up the space in my brain. This is the prefrontal cortex, okay? A little brain, Ed, before we go. Like the primordial brain, the amygdala brain, back here is fight, flight, fix, freeze, fawn. That's all the stress reaction. It's about survival. It's critical, but also it gets very toxic and it releases cortisol, and adrenaline, which is superhuman, but also when we're in stress reactions, especially, yeah. So there's that primordial brain, and then the inner brain, right, the middle brain, which regulates homeostasis and all of our hormonal imbalances in the brain. And then we've got like the prefrontal cortex, like this, like the wisdom traditions, this higher consciousness, the third eye, like, right? And so but it's also in science, it's like the prefrontal cortex is where there's vision and execution and strategy. It's one of the gifts of the human mind, right? Is the prefrontal cortex in balance with the primordial brain and the middle brain. And our brains are incredible, but they also hijack us, right? And so I don't know how I got here, but anyway. Peace out, y'all. Liberty Swap Finance to $1. And I don't care if there's a coin. If there's a coin, there's a coin. But I would say only if it's needed. I suspect that the infrastructure and the utility is more important than any coin attached to it. But if there is a coin attached to it, as long as it's got a utility, as long as there's value, as long as it's fee sharing, I'm cool with it. Peace out.